It's Monday. It's April 10th, 2023. Um, I am, I woke up this morning. Um, I went through Holy Week this week in the vocational um, theater and production company that I have access to finally for the first time in my life to see what the humans outside of St. John's were practicing and performing their entire vocation that was in some kind of a blind that I couldn't see and I didn't know how to participate in. Um, so that was eye opening. Um, then this morning, so that was all religious context amongst the death and resurrection of Jesus, of this, and also in a shroud or a veil of some sort about some criminality of Jesus um, that then dies, but then Jesus comes back, um, and the cleansing of the sin and the moving on and the moving through. Um, of time, and then this calendar resets every year, and then the loyalists of this Christianity perpetuate this as a symbolic gesture of some sort in their humanity to remind themselves of their roots, of their position inside their safety net with inside the human construct in this particular area. Um, I know it's practiced throughout the world, so I've heard how they participate in other sections of, again, it's a potter's field supposedly. So if that's within the construct of war theater and how specific tribal populations keep themselves safe, while in some multi-tribals are around at all times and you don't want war to break out, um, trying to keep things in civil context and not have one's human rights advanced upon or taken from you. Um, so this morning, so there's that in the construct of where I spent the weekend, the motions and the actions that I went through at Zion. And then this morning, there's a reminder that comes on. Yesterday, I mentioned through the Harry Potter lens of the Mirror of Erised. Um, this morning, one of the other Potter's Field epithets came out with this Angel of Verdun and this Rita. Again, there's a NATO somewhere, which is North Atlantic Treaty Organization. I'm not sure if the other hemisphere uses a RITA, RITA, for treaty with the Atlantic. That's out of touch with the ocean. I'm not quite sure how that works. Again, there's a man that I'd really like to spend time with. He has a wife, Kim, and two daughters. I'm thinking that that's relevant somewhere in the real world. So I'm watching what the humans constructed in my area, which again, there's an Uncle Duke somewhere in a relationship to the geographical name on the geology in this area, which has a specific pattern flag, which is very important. I know. I'm just trying to figure out how it's all relatable since there's been no concrete. Then it goes from here I'll go from here because it talks about bones, and they use the actor from Harry Potter, Mad Eye Moody, um, and there's this again, and he was in Potter's Field, and now it's a crossover to a different field. And then I'll go back to this talking of omega and alpha positions, where they give a visual. They keep giving warnings about this lockup in psych ward, which already happened to me before I got to this point. The movie came out, the epithet or the Arasat's Mirror came out in 2014. I didn't see it. I was having divine crimes um, used against me at that point. I was already, I mean, I've had years of trouble, but now it was getting to an apex um, of concern that I didn't know was coming in for like future. I know, but there's whatever going on. So this is what it looks like. And it's interesting because it uses this mention of the fuel in Greenwich. I don't know if that's a sidewinder from my youth in when Lewis had the office in Greenwich, and the entire community of Greenwich could have taken Lewis with all of his state's licenses. And he had a um, he had a three-house clearinghouse back then. I know the names of them. They seem really important with Oppenheimer and two others. But then something happened with the fuel in Greenwich. And in this particular epithet, they leave it out of the briefing for some reason. It just seems like it might be key and crucial somewhere between an NATO and a RITA, perhaps. Again, I'd have to address the man who has the wife, KIM, and two daughters.
I've asked not to be disturbed. This had better be critical.
Fate of mankind? Critical enough?
Don't believe what I'm seeing.
I've had more than my share of that.
Sit down, General. Stay away from the desk.
I'd take her very seriously if I were you.
I have to hand it to you, Major. When you left this office today, I never imagined you'd be back, let alone with my most decorated soldier.
I'm going to tell you a story, General, and first it's going to sound ridiculous, but the longer I talk, the more rational it's going to appear. Tell him you call back.
Tell who?
Major General Beaumont calling from Halifax. His plane's just been delayed. Bad weather.
Yeah.
Beaumont, Halifax, bad weather.
Yes. Thank you, Bones. I'll call you back.
Because in an omega position and an alpha position, when mistakes are made early on, does the mistake ever really go away, or does it fester and grow new legs, new story, new power, and new problems? After this, yes, last night they put on 60 Minutes on CBS, and they were talking about the James Webb Telescope. What's interesting is the PGA took over the entire recording. So there was only like 10 minutes of the actual program with James Webb and a couple of other stories, which seem really, really important. So I'm going to reference that because after the visualization of this omega and this alpha, and then going into the realm of the scientists at they take these data points, if that's what these galaxies are, in mistakes amongst humanity, in portfolios, in places that I don't have access to at the moment. Say they were mistakes. Some have different colors. I mean, because again, you have to bring these moving projects. There's a lot of moving points of light and origin. But to have an analysis done about a specific problem affecting a very specific omega seems really crucial at this point, considering there are very highlighted and definable pieces that broke along the way for where I know I'm a very special bloodline. I'm an endangered species in this area, which makes it critical at zoology and the way that the breeding program works there. And my entire season has been mishandled. And I know there's an Uncle Duke and there's an Uncle Mark somewhere that sees this as high priority and concern as well, along with their very vulnerable positions if it's not handled properly. So I'm just watching through that lens at the moment.
Tomorrow's invasion is a slaughter. I'm dead within 5 minutes of landing on that beach, along with every other soldier you are sending. And that's because the enemy knows we're coming. How do I know this? Before I died, I killed a mimic, only this one was different. It passed something on to me in my blood. Now I live the same day over and over again, just like they do. Just like Sergeant Pataski after done.
Where do
Tell your
mimics
secretary everything's...
where do mimics actually exist? At the moment, it seems to be in the mirror of Arasat. It seems to be other people, other projects, all convalescing. It's in the galaxy, it's in the universe somewhere. They've created data points, they've created storylines to defend their positions, especially when the mistakes. The problem is especially they show it here as machines, and machines all coming at, but that again, and I don't want to give too much definition to it, but it just seems arguments and perpetual argumentations and people who have had time to defend and grow their arguments, but in the wrong direction for whatever reason, to defend the mistakes that were already made but are growing more dangerous and worse as time carries forward. But again, that's where the James Webb Telescope data points that create these incredible images and then people make incredible stories out of them, that level. But then there's these celestial bodies of where humans are actually originated from, where their light turns on, and then their time here is set and designed in some intelligent design that leaves a footprint somewhere between universe and galaxy. But it's really hard without visual to...
It's fine.
Beg your pardon?
I'm sorry, General. I thought you were alone.
It's fine.
She typed up those orders for you to authorize, but she left out the ones referring to the fuel dump at Greenwich.
He said fuel dump in Greenwich. Just want to make sure. Lou had multi-state offices, positions, and something happened with gaining the funding and Greenwich was such a crucial, critical point in Douglas Bremen's ability with the three clearinghouses to make it to some next level. Again, Celtic god Lu and the sun being center point of the universe. I having time factor involved, which was known about ahead of time, that I was going to have a special child, which would lock in a specific field of anatomical features that are critical in prediction, in prophets, prophecy, and defense.
Your name is Iris. Your birthday is September 17th. The general quietly pulled some strings, stationed your only son in Australia as far from the war as possible. Tell the general his dinner's just been canceled. A call came in just now.
Your dinner was cancelled.
You forgot the fuel dump. Thank you, artist. That'll be all.
Kate, let's go.
Rita, let me
What do
just...
we do?
Please, don't shoot him again.
They refer to this woman, they refer to her as Rita, Rita. Seems important at like an NATO level.
Okay? Just you know, General, This isn't the first time we've had this conversation. That's because you're stubborn. You won't believe me when I tell you that Dr. Carter was right, that the enemy can manipulate time. The invasion will fail, no matter how many bodies you throw at it. The only way to win this war is by finding this power source of the mimic horde and killing it. And the only means of finding it is in that safe right there. No matter how many times we have this conversation, you refuse to accept that the enemy breaks through to London tomorrow and we lose. We lose everything.
And this movie has a very London centric feel to it. Again, New York, and then and then I don't know if that's territorially what's in charge of the waterways. That's in merchant marines, like where the stuff that hits the shore. Like, I'm not quite sure where those lines of where does working at corporate security, then global security, and then the locals. I mean, there is a separation of church and power. We have our own flag system. The colors align, but there's this agitated thing that goes on. I see it seething underneath, but I don't know if that's multiple alphas under multiple whatever in like a corporate security way that keep trying to push other things. But again, when the analysis at like a James Webb telescope comes back and states that there may or may not be a presence of danger that's still not being handled correctly, how do you get to that level of being able to tell the truth for oneself when the images are coming through that way from people that are so out of... I used to have visions as a child. I would wake up and I'd say, Judy, what I am frightened of in the future does not exist where we are at this point. And I used to draw her photos of what it looked like. I said, it's about the size, and I didn't have words for it. I said, it's about the size of a cereal box. It's in that shape, whatever that shape is. Because again, I was so young and I didn't even have my shapes down. There was no technical terms for what a computer was. I said it has something with keys on it, but they're smaller squares. I said they're smaller, whatever the shape of the box, whatever that is on the... And I had to learn what a shape was. I mean, there was a lot of like in the field, on the field training in order to describe what my visions as a child or my dreams as a child, and what my future was gonna be holding. That was so frightening because I was afraid they were gonna get it wrong.
Let's say for one moment that I can't rationally explain your impressive parlor tricks. Dr. Carter told me this device requires a live mimic to work. What use is it to you?
That's my concern.
On the contrary, according to you, this concerns the whole world.
What would you do if you believed everything I just told you?
I would locate this
Omega,
and bomb it out of existence.
you're not mentally equipped to fight this thing, and you never will be.
What do we do now?
I don't know. We've never gotten this far.
Now, I'm going to rewind it back to the point of where they do the visual explaining of what they think an omega and an alpha is. I have never in my life run into spoken with a group of humans about an omega or an alpha in this, where in where this function is in the universe and in the galaxy. Um, there's been no auditory conversation ever recorded in what I refer to as unrestricted airspace, which is where, but I say that only because if time and space exists outside of this time and space, one would be on a restricted basis and one would be on it's in motion and it's in flow. And I don't have technical words or technical training to describe or discern the difference. I just know where and how the shifts happen. And above the door, it says United Defense, as they're walking out, it says United Defense Force, which again, these are not household terms that have ever been spoken of in my life frame. Now, this is called Edge of Tomorrow. It came out in a year, it's saying 2014. I really can't confirm that because I wouldn't have known. And it says, caught in a time loop, a soldier, Tom Cruise, repeatedly relives the battle in which he died. Now, that's kind of how I feel about this point in space and time with this Jason Romer figure from 1976. That is a point that through my entire breeding cycle and my entire arrangement with humanity off in some way or warped space and time, and it's the word manipulated has the word man in it. So it was manhandled and manipulated. And again, it should have never been. He should have never even had a brush up near me. He's an RH positive. I'm an RH negative. That right there means he had no shot in hell, but somebody gave him a chance. That's a problem.
Right, well, first of all, you're not fighting an army. You have to think of this as a single organism. Now, these common drones, they act like it's clones.
Alphas, like the one that you killed, are much more rare.
Yeah, they're like 1 in 6.18 million,
Yes.
by my guess.
They act as the enemy's.
They're like the central nervous system. But this is the brain. It controls them all. And this is the Omega. And the Omega has the ability to control time.
Whenever an alpha is killed, an automatic response is triggered. The Omega starts the day over again. But you see, this time it can remember what's going to happen just like you do.
It knows exactly what we're going to do before we're going to do it.
And an enemy that knows the future can't lose.
Again, at a lower ward level, with some of the nuisance humans that exist in the system, is that to explain the premeditation aspect of how they behaved in the field, where they knew there was going to be dire consequences, that people were going to get harmed, things would shift in the wrong way, and the future would be built, warped into something that then would be really difficult to recover from. Again, it all it all depends on the side of the argument and who's pushing what and what force that they're fighting with. That seems to be a really crucial piece.
But if that's true, how did you win every gun?
We were allowed to win. This thing wants us to believe we can win. It wants us to throw everything we have into the invasion. Operation Downfall isn't our end game, it's the enemy's.
The thing you've got to understand is this is a perfectly evolved, world-conquering organism.
For all we know, there are thousands, millions of those asteroids floating around in the cosmos like a virus. And they're just waiting to crash land into a world with just the right conditions. All they need is for the dominant life form to attack and
there'll be nothing to stop the mimics from conquering the rest of the world. Unless you change.
me? When you killed that alpha, you inadvertently entered the enemy's nervous system.
Cage, you've seized control of the Omega's ability to reset the day.
How's that even possible?
Perhaps this organism's only vulnerability, its only vulnerability, is humanity.
Regardless of that, you control the power now, just as I did in Verdun.
So I'm resetting the day. Okay. How do I control it?
You have to die
Every day.
until the Omega's destroyed.
And again, crossover with Christianity. I don't know if that's their answer, because there's certain things in the universe and in the galaxy that are not allowed to die because they are the pieces in the universe and galaxy that are explainable, and that is the defense system trying to isolate the problems that have already occurred in order to have a field, in order to produce a cure for what's already transpired. So that overlay of death and resurrection, whether it be every year they perform this loyal sacrament and this loyal ritual to remind themselves that they're still in this, they still have a following, they're still gathered together under this umbrella as a species, as a multifaceted species at this point, from what I can tell. In the section that I'm in, but that was already laid out and anchored for the humans before this level of wake-up call came through, for which I don't have this guide or this as to how to anticipate these things. I mean, I didn't even know that they were coming for me to rip my children from me. I mean, I didn't know that 1975 was going to enter through Blacksmith and then try to disrupt my entire internal safety mechanism of raising my children, for which I couldn't get the toilet paper off my shoe.
First of all, this is a terrific presentation. Terrific. I know the general. We should take this to him. You just tell him everything you told me.
I went to see the
No.
General, Cage any number of times. Psych ward, dissection, remember?
What are you expecting from me?
Have you seen anything strange?
Is he shitting me?
Visions.
Visions. Have you seen any visions like that? The Omega senses when it's losing control of its power. Even now, it's mentally searching to find you.
When it's close to finding you, you will start having visions. You'll start to see that.
You'll even see where it is.
And you had these visions?
Yes.
But eventually you saw it. I mean, you actually saw it, right?
Never in the flesh.
She's seen it then in the Holy Spirit realm of possibility, perhaps. If the body looks dead here but still is alive, and there's some form of human connection to a system just beyond the visual spectrum. But again, these things get into people's spirit and having to be able to abstractly get out of the day-to-day that they're trying to live in with sunlight at this level. At this point in this time frame, having time and space warped and manipulated, where there are a lot of people who've been hurt and wake up each day in pain. I get that. But there's still this sense of urgency that I feel.
So this is all just some theory. You don't know if this thing even exists.
The visions showed me it was at Verdun. I could see it.
That's where theory, like a James Webb telescope of data points, of following a human's main mission, and then where the break in the cosmos is, that level theory in the defense system, very different than some college kid trying to write a movie script.
I just lost the power before I could get to it.
And by the time we took Verdun, the Omega was gone.
Okay, so all I have to do is wait to have these visions and then tell you where this Omega thing is.
No, Kate. You're gonna get me there. And I'm gonna kill it.
Get you there. I'm not even trained for combat.
This is what I feel like going into Netflix. I'm not even like joking. It is such a daunting task. It's like, where did they hide the Easter eggs? Like, if there's such a thing. Like, there's intelligence somewhere in the Netflix system that they've created, designed, and platformed. Same thing with Apple TV and Hulu. Who's having these conversations? I don't know. It seems to be the elite, but it's not the elite at the level that I need to be at. It's some lesser portfolio of managers that have egos and are fighting in the potter's field for protecting other people's mistakes. And I get that there are alliances, allegiances, but again, I've got to get like shortest distance between 2 points is direct straight path. So this program, it's S55E29 from last night. This is how they open it. And this is the crossover bridge of consciousness between what are the humans watching in like regular television programming that may not have seen the movie, or may have seen the movie, thought that it meant one thing, or interpreted the movie wrong for whatever portfolio manager and agenda they might have. And then where is the actual origin of actual truth and knowing?
What does the origin of everything look like? That's what NASA's James Webb Space Telescope is trying to discover. We call it space because we thought there was nothing out there.
There is no empty sky with James Webb.
The telescope is sensitive to the faint light that reaches us from the dawn of time. Then this team turns data into images that look like this, and this, and this.
Does any human in actuality know what any of this means? I've never met another one, ever. But when I talk about human birthdays, it looks like this. Just points of light on a black background with no semblance of reality. There's no cosmic wheel in some places. depending on what the filter being applied is used. But for like all of humanity in the same exact program at a flat ion field, it kind of looks something like this metal. And then there's this one point that's a little bit brighter than the others because it's a double in time and space. And that would be the very special cosmic mother and the very special cosmic child and their position amongst the rest, which is a very rare position, but it does exist and it does have importance. And that goes into other real truths about why it was so important to get me to the man who has this WIFE with the KIM in the two daughter category of importance. So this way, the original introduction of who I was to marry actually fruited with children in the safe category for my level of human and like my blood type. But that's where things broke in the system. Interestingly enough, when I went to go see the Intrepid and I went past the CBS building, which again, I don't really know that area, my son wanted to go to the Army Navy store afterwards just to look around. He just wanted to check it out. And the nearest one to that specific geographical location, when I typed it into Google, was the Galaxy. I was like, what are the odds that that's what they would name down in the middle of New York? I mean, it is just holy cow. Or maybe it's Holy Crow again. I don't.
The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has ignited a revolution in global sports, and it's not easy to apply a price tag. Soccer star Cristiano Ronaldo has just signed a $200 million contract for 1 year. Golfers who left the PGA make more than $100 million to play in a new Saudi-backed circuit. Is the kingdom simply resetting the market in sports, or using sports to launder its image?
Almost exactly 4 years ago, the Cathedral of
Notre Dame, Henri Lossier.
Notre Dame in Paris caught fire, and the world watched in horror. On this Easter Sunday, 60 Minutes gets rare access to the painstaking restoration of Notre Dame, as workers and artisans revive every part of this medieval masterpiece.
I'm Leslie Stahl.
And then they go through this. I'm running out of tape, so I gotta pause this for a second. But what I find interesting is they said, and they showed the scientists and said that they are the ones that create these data points and data sets and then these images that then they bring out. And again, when I see it up there, it's like visual arts. It's the reading and the invention of what do they actually stand for, bringing it into the human consciousness, but not necessarily giving away defense positions in amongst humanity and what and how humans evolve or what paths in this intelligent design outside of the human construct of what they were born into, but still exists at like a Harry Potter, Hogwarts, and Brigham level.
Yes. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope has hardly opened its eyes, and the universe is new, more mysterious, more beautiful than humanity's dreams. The largest telescope ever flown launched into deep space on Christmas Day 2021. Its primary mission is to reveal the "let there be light" moment, when the stars and galaxies first ignited after the Big Bang. Recently, we got a look at some captivating images, as Webb peers back toward the origin of everything. This is one of Webb's early deep dives into the cosmos. 250 hours of exposures that expand the imagination.
And all these little dots are stars? All these little dots are galaxies, some of which are bigger than our own.
Astrophysicist Brent Robertson flew us through 130,000 galaxies, half never seen before. Enormous swirls of billions of stars each, some like our own Milky Way, and others, well, out of this world.
We call this galaxy at the center of the screen the cosmic rose. Just by chance, it looks like a rose does. You can see that dusty red irregular galaxy. You know, space is more crowded than you might think, and actually galaxies wind up interacting with each other. They actually will merge together. So I'm zooming in now.
Now, here's the thing. There's a field of science. There's a professional guild or a professional organization. I am not clear when I have one of these North Star positions, perhaps, of importance between mother and son or mother and child to come. Even in the brokenness, my Easter eggs and my basket that I was created with and from already knew about this special position. So, based on where the expansion of the universe and the anticipation of projections were going in predictive services. So, it's a little confusing why then my career path and the ladder program or escalator program or elevator program getting to the correct field of scientists and to be surrounded by the area scientists for which I would then be more easily protected and surrounded by the defense of our system in this area. It's confusing to me why I was mishandled and why I wasn't brought into a safety position to just almost become like a wallflower. Just something on the wallpaper of the important people and positions in the world, and to just have my child and just be amongst the protected of the endangered species. I mean, again, the animals in the zoo, in the breeding program, when they get to wherever they need to get, they just happily live out their lives. I don't understand why that simplicity was not handled correctly. They said this year on the Holy Calendar, there was 3 holidays, Easter, Passover, and Ramadan, all around the same time. That only happens 3 times in a century. I was looking for the piece. I can't seem to find it at the moment, but here's what the regular Channel 2 news had to say.
Christians around the world are celebrating Easter Sunday, the holiest day of the year. Crowds are expected at St. Patrick's Cathedral all day in Midtown. CBS 2's Christina Fan is there and joins us live with more on what we can expect. Good morning, Christina.
Good morning, Andrea, and happy Easter. Not too many people outside at the moment because they're all headed inside for the second Mass of the day. Easter, of course, is the most important day on the Christian calendar. It honors the resurrection of Jesus Christ and also offers universal hope. In Rome this morning, Pope Francis already delivered Mass to tens of thousands in St. Peter's Square. The night before, he led the world's Roman Catholics into Easter at a Saturday night vigil, decrying the icy winds of war, corruption, and other injustices, encouraging parishioners not to yield to disillusionment and to keep moving forward. Many faithful we found here in Midtown this morning are reflecting too on this spiritual day.
Resurrection is our saving grace as Christians, that we are saved, that no matter what we do, we are saved.
The end of war, the end of, racism,
We want everything to get better. And I mean, it sounds maybe foolish to hope for that, but if you don't start with hope, where are you going?
I think that just rounds out different levels of knowledge of things, how to interpret an omega or an epithet. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy. For me at the moment is broken. And it's the Monday after Easter.